Hi, welcome to Costume Commentary. I'm Kate.
And I'm Britt, and today we're talking about the Quentin Tarantino film, The Hateful Eight.
Spoiler alert.
Yep, we're going to be talking about the end because it's very relevant to the costumes. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it first. We'll see you in 3 hours.
Overall, we enjoyed this film. We actually have a little differing opinions about it. Britt absolutely loves it. I'm not the biggest Quentin Tarantino fan. It did have some great costuming in it.
Mm-hmm. And some not so great.
Yeah.
Depends on who you're talking about.
The historical accuracy of it was not really historically accurate, but if you're going towards the 1960s and 70s spaghetti westerns and the Hollywood ideal of westerns, it's spot on.
Looking at interviews with the costume designer and also the director Quentin Tarantino, they came at this sort of looking at these characters as each coming from their own Western film, and by some weird coincidence they ended up in this convergence. So they each, like, they don't even look like they belong with each other, but that's absolutely on purpose, and that adds to the story. But if you're looking for a historically accurate post-Civil War film as far as costuming, this is not that. So the biggest presence in the film is probably John Ruth, the Hangman. His costuming has a lot to do with that. Specifically this gigantic fur coat that makes him look twice the size of a normal human. I've definitely seen pictures of Kurt Russell and actually went to the Comic-Con panel for The Hateful Eight before this movie came out. He's not that huge. He's like a normal human. But the costuming choices and also the angles they filmed him at, he looks like a gigantic man. He also has like a huge personality. A lot of characters are wearing fur in the film, and you can kind of tell where they're at in life by the status of their fur, especially comparing him and Bob. Bob's fur looks kind of matted a bit and not well taken care of and really messy, and John Ruth's fur, like, it all goes the same way and it looks clean, and he gets some snow on it at one point and it still looks fine. Of all the characters wearing film, that was another kind of cool thing that they were like, here's where this person's at in life, just check out their furs. Overall, I pretty much liked his costume. The one thing that I will say is, like, it wasn't anything iconic. Right now, without looking at a picture, I can't picture all the details because it just wasn't anything spectacular. John Ruth and his big bad presence is there for one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to get a certain character to Red Rock to be hung, and that character is Daisy Domergue.
Now, Daisy's costuming along with John Ruth was not super memorable, but there were little things about it that I absolutely loved. The fact that she is wearing a corset. And we don't see it, which would actually be time period appropriate. If you learn anything from costume commentary, it's that
corsets are underwear.
She, just like John Ruth, has this very big presence because of the coats that she's wearing. Now hers is more of a leather coat with fur trim on it. That, to me, feels a little bit more feminine, despite her not so feminine attitude. But she's wearing so many layers, and that's great because they're in the snow, and it infuriates me in movies when women are in the snow and they're like wearing just a dress. But she is wearing this big fur collar that really makes her look big, but it also makes her herself look small. She looks like she's very like trapped in it, and that really accentuates her character with the fact that she's trapped in this situation. Even though she did pretty much put herself there. But just like John Ruth, it's not super memorable. Like, even now I'm trying to recall everything that I wanted to talk to about it, and I'm not remembering much because it's not super memorable. And I actually like that because it shows more of the personality of the other people around her. Somebody may not look significant, but they are. And I really like that costuming choice. I
think the reason why hers and John Ruth's costumes are not that memorable is mostly the color palette. The other characters had some more interesting, or at least like brighter, not in the sense that they're like bright yellow, but it's a gray that's a lot lighter than their clothes, which were brown and like a dark purple and red, and so they almost blend into the background.
Yeah, they really do.
That's one thing about these costumes that I would have to say I like didn't like as much.
Yeah. And now we're going to talk about another major character, Major Marquez.
His costume is interesting because I absolutely love it. It does a lot for his character. I feel like it means a lot, especially the colors that they put him in. It's absolutely not at all accurate. It's meant to be a Union uniform that he still has and wears. But it doesn't really look like any of the Union uniforms at the time, especially at the end of the war. We actually have gone to the Fort MacArthur History Days when we talked to one of the Confederate reenactors there, who was reenacting a period slightly more toward the end of the war where they were running out of dyes countrywide, not just the Confederate, the Union officers, everyone. They were running out of dyes, their clothes were getting old, they were getting worn out, and his costume for this movie is this sapphire navy blue, this brilliant yellow and crazy bright red, which is gorgeous. It calls so much attention to him. It means a lot for him as a character and is absolutely 100% wrong. But that's not really what they were going for. You know? That fact, while important to note if you want to use this as reference, is not that damning for the costuming as a whole. You find over the course of the movie that a lot of things that he says may or may not be true, but there's still something about him that makes you want to like trust him.
Yeah.
Even when you find out things he said aren't true, he has reasons for why he does some of the things that he does, but it does bring into question, like, maybe this Union uniform isn't correct, because what if it's just not even real? It's so wrong, especially with the shape and how he wears it, that someone who doesn't have any experience with historical fashion is going to look at that and be like, I don't think that's what they wore. Yeah. So it's effective because anybody who goes to see this movie is like,
questioning.
I don't know about this. This doesn't seem right. And it puts this little bit of doubt in your brain. Then you have another character who was sort of involved in the war, but it's a bit more of a fanboy.
Let's talk about Chris Mannix. The most important thing that I want to talk about with Chris Mannix is his love for the Confederate uniform that Sandy Smithers is wearing. He immediately sees Sandy and picks him out as, I'm going to spend all of my time that I am stuck in this building with this Confederate hero. And then Sandy Smithers dies. And before the body has even gone cold, Chris Mannix has plucked that Confederate coat off of him and is wearing it. Now this is a really important piece because it shows his character, and it also shows a stark difference between him and
Major Warren.
He really idolizes what the South was about, despite the war being over and the South losing.
He does talk about how what he felt that they were fighting for was dignity in defeat.
He idolizes that uniform not necessarily because of what we originally associate the Confederates being with, but because of that dignity and what they believed was righteousness. And so he sees that coat, he's going off to be a sheriff of town, and he wants to be dignified, and he wants to have that honor bestowed on him.
Sandy Smithers also is interesting because he almost looks like a ghost.
Yeah.
He's very pale, he has white hair, he's wearing all gray, and I think he stands up once the entire movie. The rest of the movie he sits in that chair and does not move.
Yeah.
And he looks like a ghost.
Yeah.
There is a really interesting and very profound transition that happens with those coats, specifically Major Warren and Chris Mannix with the stolen Confederate coat. And by the end of the movie, they're the only two left alive.
Yes.
And over most of the movie, they've been very antagonistic with each other, obviously. By the end of the movie, when they're the only ones left alive, the only things they're still wearing are their pants, undershirts, and waistcoats, which look almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
They've been stripped down, and it's no longer these alliances and loyalism, and they're lying, bleeding next to each other and talking. It wasn't about Confederate or Union, it was just two people stuck in this place knowing that they were gonna die. Bad news first. Kate, which one was your least favorite?
My least favorite was actually John Ruth. Mainly it's the fact that he doesn't stick out a lot. The one thing that I really hated was the pinstriping in his costume, because it really just felt out of place. It just does not feel right, and it gives me the wrong associations.
Yeah. It also, for whatever reason, I think it's also the shape of the waistcoat that he's wearing. It looks fancy, and he obviously had money to buy this really nice fur coat, but there's a difference between having money and buying nice things and then buying fancy, ostentatious things. He had this like Wild West man feel on the outside, and then the fur coat opens up and it's like, what?
Now, what was your least favorite?
So my least favorite was Bob the Mexican. I love this movie. I'm a huge Quentin Tarantino fan, but Bob felt like a throwaway character. He's the reason why Major Warren figures out that they're not really there under good intentions, specifically because of racism against Mexican people. And he's got this huge fur coat that makes him look big, not in the same way as John Ruth. It makes him look obnoxious. You didn't get as much of a character out of him at all. Any characterization, he just was a Mexican man. That was like his purpose in the story. And the costume was really bland. He was probably my least favorite aspect of the whole movie. Better news. Which one's your favorite?
My favorite is Oswaldo, or actually it's English Pete. I really loved his costume design because he is the only English character there. The first time we see him, looks very kind of pretentious almost and very well put together. He looks like a very refined man. As the film goes on, his costume changes, as well as his voice. You get this more Essex, like kind of dirty British accent. His costuming kind of falls apart and he looks less put together. Everybody has their character change in it, but his...
It's the most drastic.
It is. It's the most drastic, and his costuming and his voice and his mannerisms all flowed together so well, and I love that hat he's wearing.
He gets at the end, he's sitting back halfway over in this chair because he's been shot, and just the way he's holding his hands, he looks like what I picture like a 30s gangster to be in the middle of this Civil War film, which absolutely fits his character because he ends up being like the bookie. He's like a dirty dude.
I know who you're gonna say. Who's your favorite?
My favorite is Joe Gage. He is like the cowboy of this movie, the cow puncher, and they were like, well, we need a cowboy, so John Wayne. John Wayne is not a cowboy. No way. If you go back and you watch his movies, the clothes that he wears in those movies always fit really well. They always are really clean. And no. When is a cowboy gonna have time to wash his clothes? What is a bath or a shower or washing your clothes gonna do for you when you're gonna wash your clothes, put them on, and then immediately start smelling like cow poop again? What's the point? So a real cowboy would not have worn anything like what he was wearing. And Technicolor was new. They put these cowboys in these bright blues and bright reds, and they used color differentiation to separate, you know, these are good guys, these are bad guys. So color was really important in these spaghetti westerns, and they absolutely did that here. Compared to what a real cowboy would have worn, it's absolutely a really bright blue shirt and this red handkerchief. You didn't want people to notice you. So why would you wear an ostentatious, made out of really nice fabric blue shirt and red handkerchief? You wouldn't. I love it though because he is the fantasy cowboy. He's not a real cowboy.
He's the very romanticized cowboy.
Yes.
Which also goes along with the things that they allude to in the film.
He is the one who, when they figure out that they're probably not going to be able to save Daisy, he looks at her and says, like, I'm sorry, honey. Overall, there were some things we loved. There were some things that we hated. I think I loved it a little bit more because I'm very faithful to my love for Tarantino.
And the only Quentin Tarantino movie that I absolutely love is Inglourious Basterds, and that's because I'm a World War II junkie.
So our first one, I think we have differing opinions.
Yeah, it is, but I mean...
We're not too differing.
Yeah, we might dislike, we might like it and dislike it for different reasons, but we feel like collectively it was good. We really recommend you go out and see this movie because it is phenomenal, it is a work of art, but do not let your children see it.
Yeah, even if you're an adult and you are sensitive to like blood or racism or lots of stuff.
Yeah, if you're sensitive at all.
Maybe skip it. That's it for today. Please like the video if you liked it and leave a comment letting us know what you'd like to see us review next. Stay tuned, this upcoming Wednesday we'll be doing a Bruce tutorial. Watch me beat up bread. Thanks for watching! My first music video was for the song Na 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 Time 69, and it set up this amazing world really quickly. And the Killjoys are the name of this group, and what they're doing is spreading like color and